Okay. We have what am I doing? Shvius. We're starting with Shvius today, or
No, Yevamos.
Yevamos? Okay. Okay, Yevamos, based that one who brings a bill of divorce from overseas and says it was written before me and signed before me and may not marry this wife. But if he declares he died, I killed him, we killed him, he may not marry his wife. Rabbi Huda says, if he declares I killed him, his wife may not marry. We killed him, his wife may marry. A sage prohibited a woman to her husband because of a vow may not marry her. However, if she refuses to perform chalitza before him, he may marry her since he is in a court. If any of these wives who had later died, they are permitted to marry him. And if any of these marry others and were they are then divorced or the widow, they are permitted to marry them. All of these are permitted their sons of their brothers. If there were four brothers and two of them were married to two sisters and two married to the two sisters died, they require chalitza but may not be taken in yibum. If they went ahead and married them, they must divorce them. But Reb Eliezer says Beit Shammai said they may keep them, but Beit Hillel says they must divorce them. Okay.
Okay, right. On to our next Mishnah, and I'm going to share diagrams now
Right.
because at this point we it's our most effective thing. It starts getting complicated.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's get this diagram opened up nicely. All right. So once again, we've got the four brothers situation. We've got Reuven and Shimon over here on this side, and Yehuda and Levi on the other side. So Reuven married to Leah, Yehuda married to Rachel. Okay, but Dinah is Leah's daughter. Okay, and that's Shimon's and that's wait, yeah, Leah has a daughter, Dinah, who's married to Shimon. Okay, now that's allowed. This is from a previous marriage, right?
Right.
Okay, and now Shimon is married to Leah's daughter Dinah. Okay, so now Haitza achas mehen asura al ha'echad isur erva. Okay, so now Leah is asur to Shimon by an erva because it's his mother-in-law.
Right. Okay.
Okay, so he's not allowed to marry Leah at all. Therefore, okay, Asur Ba, obviously he's not allowed to marry her, but he's allowed to marry Rachel because now he has no connection whatever to Leah. There was never any zikr. If it had just been Reuven and Leah in the picture and Reuven had died, then Leah would have walked free. No,
Mhm.
no chalitza, no yibum, because there's an erva over there. If they were married, the kiddushin wouldn't take effect. The children would be mamzerim, etc., etc. Okay, so since Leah is out of the picture as far as Shimon is concerned, Shimon can do yibum or chalitza to Rachel. Okay, so he would be allowed to do the yibum on her.
Yehuda's still alive? Yehuda's still alive at
Yehuda's
this
dead.
point?
No, Yehuda's dead. Yehuda's
Oh,
dead.
dead.
That's the
Okay.
reason why he's allowed to have why because Yehuda's dead and that's his brother that he has to do yibum on the widow. Levi,
Right.
on the other hand, um, Levi has no connection with Dinah. It's not his wife. So therefore, he has a connection to both Leah and Rachel. He's got a zikr to both Leah and Rachel, and since they're sisters, he's not allowed to marry either of them. Okay, and this means that he has to go and do chalitza to Leah
Okay. All right.
because well, assuming that Shimon marries Rachel, nonetheless Levi is still prohibited to Leah because she was once prohibited to him, then she's always prohibited to him. Okay, so Hasheni asur b'shteihen. Okay, so far so good.
Okay. All right.
But what happens if it's an isur mitzvah or an isur kedusha? Okay, the Issa Mitzvah, Issa Kedusha. Let's just talk. It's easiest to think of it in terms of an Issur of who you're not allowed to be married to. Like let's say that uh, let's say this is a family of think how this could all work. How would he be usher to her, but not to the other? Okay, it could be a family. It could be a family of Kohanim, and Shimon is the Kohen Gadol.
Okay. All right.
Okay, and Leah was a widow before she. Leah was a widow. No, Leah is a widow. Okay, she is a widow. That's just a fact. A Kohen Gadol is not allowed to do a yibum. He has to do chalitza because he's not allowed to marry a widow.
All right.
Okay,
No,
so he's the
okay.
so he's the Kohen Gadol. Nonetheless, he is. But we have to conjure up a way that he's usher to one and not to the other. Um, bim- okay, let's say again, it's a family of Kohanim. And everyone else in the family, all of the other brothers are halalim because let's say Shimon was born to a kosher woman, and Reuben, Yehuda, and Levi were all born to a divorcee. Okay, so they're all brothers through their father, and all the dinim of Yibum are concerned, but Shimon is the only kohen among them. The rest of them are halalim, and Leah is formerly a divorcee. She was divorced before she married Reuben.
Okay.
Okay. So now that's called an Isser, that's an Isser mitzvah, Isser Kedusha. Okay. So now Shimon's not allowed to marry Leah, but if he were to marry Leah, the Kiddushin would take effect and the children would not be Mamzerim. They would just be Halalim. Okay. So that means that so that's the second case in our mitzvah. If it's an Isser mitzvah, Isser Kedusha, Chotzot v'lo misyabmos. He nonetheless has to do, since there is a shtickle zikr to her, since the Kiddushin would take effect, nonetheless, Shimon has to do chalitza on both Leah and Rachel, or they both need. He cannot do yibum on Rachel, which he could have if Leah was mamish and ereva to him.
Okay.
You get the difference between the
Right.
important thing, the difference between an erva and an isser. The erva is very severe. There would be no you cannot marry an erva. Like a person cannot marry his sister. It just does not work. Okay,
Right.
and the children would be mamzerim. So if such a relationship exists between Shimon and Leah, such as she's his mother-in-law, then there's no zikah at all, and therefore he can do yibum to Rachel. Okay,
Okay.
that's
Yeah.
that's Mishnah. That's Mishnah base. Mishnah Gimel. Let's move on. Okay. Haisa achas mehen asura al ze isur erva, vashnia asura al ze isur erva. So now, look, if you look at the diagram again, each sister is an erva to one brother. So in this case, Leah is Shimon's mother-in-law and Rachel is Levi's mother-in-law.
Right. Okay. All right.
Okay, nice and easy. Nice and easy now because in this case, uh, ha'asur lazeh muteris lazeh va'asur lazeh muteris lazeh. She, since she's asur to Shimon, she is mutar to Levi, and she, since she's asur to Levi, is mutar to Shimon.
Okay. All right. I got that.
Oh, sorry, I
Okay.
mean, I got the dependencies wrong. Since Leah is asur to Shimon, Rachel is mutar to Shimon, and since Rachel is asur to Levi, Leah is mutar to Levi.
All right. Okay.
Okay. V'zohi she'amru. Now remember when we said a few Mishnayos ago, achosa keshehi yivimta or choletis or misyabemes. This is the only case. This is the case where her sister, when she is a ko-yevama, can get chalitza or yibum. Only in this corner case, where we have this bizarre setup. That's the only time when they can both be taken in yibum. Okay. Shlosha achim. Next case in the next Mishnah. Okay, we got three brothers. Shnai mehen nisuim l'shtei achayos. So it's as before. We've got Reuven, Shimon, Levi. Reuven and Shimon were married to two sisters, and Levi is not married. Let's just say, or isha bita. Or it could be that Reuben and Shimon are married to a woman and her daughter, or Isha Basbita, or a woman and her granddaughter. Okay, don't think too hard about these things. Or Isha or Basbana, Hare elu choltzos v'lo misyabmos. These also require charitza and not yibum. Okay, because in these cases here, the they we've got a zika. we've got a zika to both of them, and since both of them are an erva to each other, if you married the one, the other one would become an erva. We immediately say that there's no that that's he's not allowed to do yibum, but nonetheless he has to do a chalitza. Rabbi Shimon goes further. He says in this situation, it's such a strong zika is so strong that it completely exempts her from chalitza because he cannot become married to either of them. It would be basically he's saying it's basically an erva already, and therefore walk. Let's just see if that's what Shem Chalitza. Well, according to okay, so if you take a look at the commentary over here, according to Rabbi Shimon, the sister of a Zakukah is a biblical prohibition. And even though neither woman is actually married to him, the Torah treats the Yibum bond as if it were a marriage, and therefore they're like an erva to him and thus free from any Yibum bond. He only argues in our Mishnah, which speaks of three brothers, but not in Mishnah 1, where there were four brothers, because even Rabbi Shimon agrees that we treat the Yibum bond as if it were marriage on the biblical level, only when they both fall to one brother. Right? So when there's only one surviving brother, then the zikah is obvious. There's only one brother who can do Yibum or Chalitza, and therefore it's Ki'ilu they're already married. Very important shita of Rabbi Shimon. He feels like if there's only one brother and it completely falls on his shoulders, it's Ki'ilu they're already married. And since they're two, and since there's an erva, it's immediately as if they're not there's no marriage at all because they're two sisters who fell to him at the same time who are an erva for him to be married to them, and therefore they walk free. Okay. But if you've got two brothers and it's not clear who the responsibility is going to fall onto, Rabbi Shimon agrees in the previous Mishnayos with the case of two surviving brothers. You're getting that deer in the headlights look.
Okay. Wow. Uh, that's too much for me. Too much.
Okay. Haisa achas mehen asur alav isur erva. If only one of them was asur to him by an isur erva, for example, it was his mother-in-law, asur ba umutar ba'achosa. Then once again, as in the previous case, he's not allowed to marry her, and she effectively walks free if she's the only one remaining, if he's the only brother remaining. And the other one is mutar, and he's allowed to do yibum with her. Isur mitzvah, if it's the isur mitzvah or isur kedusha, such as kohen to a divorcee, cholzos v'lo misyavmos, then they must do chalitza and not yibum. So
Okay.
there's no difference in that case, and even and of course, but except that Rabbi Shimon again would disagree with that last statement because he'd say, listen, if he's the only one left, they're an erva to him anyway, so they must walk free.
Very,
Okay.
very complicated. It seems like it's really.
I consider this brain food. If you want to keep your brain moving,
This is it, right?
just spend a bit of time like with this Masechta in the Mishnah. Just take some time by yourself and go through all these cases again. Understand them all. Read through the commentary if you get stuck. I mean, if you want, you're looking for things to keep your mind active and engaged. Maseches Yevamos is perfect.
Yeah, sure. I could see it, but I think my son-in-law, maybe if he has time, maybe we can work on this together. See if he has time.
It's a great idea. It's a great idea. Yeah. I've said it before. I love this Masechta. It's
Exactly.
great food.
We're going on to
Chagiga.
here you go. Okay. There you go. There you go. We have base time. If garments of an Amaret had midges contamination perushim, garments perushim have midges contamination for those who eat truma. Garments of those who eat truma have midges contamination for those who eat kodesh, and garments of those who eat kodesh have midges contamination for those who handle purification water. Right? Yosef ben Yosef was the most devout of the Kohanim. Yet his napkin was deemed to have midras contamination for those who eat Kodesh. Yochanan ben Gudja used to eat according to the purity regulations of Kodesh all his life, yet his napkin was deemed to have midras contamination for those who handle purification water. The stringency of Kodesh compared to Truma is as follows. We may inverse vessels within another vessels for Truma, but not for Kodesh. The bottom, the inside, the handle are considered separate vessels as regards Truma, but not as regards Kodesh. Someone carrying a midrash may stimulate simultaneously carry Truma, but not Kodesh, and the garments of those that eat Truma may have midrash contamination with those that eat Kodesh. Unlike the rule of Kodesh is the rule of Truma, but in the case of immersion garments to be worn while handling Kodesh, one must untie the knots, dry, immerse, and retie them. But in the case of Truma, one may tie and then immerse. Vessels that were completed in a state of Tahara require immersion for use within Kodesh, but not for use with the Truma. A vessel combines whatever is in it with regard to Kodesh, but not with regard to Truma. The fourth degree of contamination in the case of Kodesh is invalid, but only a third degree is invalid in the case of Truma. In the case of Truma, if one of a person's hands became contaminated, the other one is still pure. But in the case of Kodesh, we must reverse them both. For one hand contamination contaminates the other as it regards Kodesh, but not as regards Truma. Okay. Okay. Tanis? Tanis, okay. Tanis Beit Chet.
Yeah.
We may not decree upon the community a series of fasts concerning on Thursday as to not to cause a rise in the market prices. Rather, the first three fasts are Monday, Thursday, Monday. The second are Thursday, Monday, Thursday. Rabbi Yossi says that just as the first three fasts are not to commence on Thursday, so too neither the second three fasts nor the final seven fasts may commence on Thursday. We may not declare a community fast on Rosh Chodesh Chanukah Purim. However, if they had already commenced a series of fasts, they may not interrupt it. This is the opinion of Rabbi Gamliel. Rabbi Meir says, although Rabbi Gamliel says they may not interrupt the series, he agrees that they should not complete the fast. And the same is true of Tisha B'Av, which falls on the eve of Shabbos. No.
Carry on.
The order of the fast mentioned above applies only if the first rain was withheld. However, if plants were changed abnormally, we sound the shofar at once because of them. Similarly, if rains were interrupted because one rain and the next between one rain and the next for 40 days, we sound the shofar at once because this represents a calamity of food shortage. Okay.
Okay. And Psachim?
Okay, test. A group that lost his Pesach offering said to one, "Go out and seek it and slaughter it for us." And he went out and found it and slaughtered it. And meanwhile, they brought it and slaughtered another. If his was slaughtered first, he eats of his, and they eat of his with him. If theirs was slaughtered first, they eat of theirs, and he eats of his. But if it is not known which of them was slaughtered first, or if both were slaughtered at the same time, then he eats of his, but they did not eat with him, and theirs must be burned, but they may exempt from observing the second Pesach. If he said to them, if I delay, go and slaughter for me, and if he went out, found it, and slaughtered it, meanwhile they brought and slaughtered it another, if theirs was slaughtered first, they eat of theirs, and he eats with them. If his was slaughtered first, he eats of his, and then they eat of theirs. But if it is not known which was slaughtered first, or both were slaughtered at the same time, then they eat of theirs. But neither does not eat with them, and he's burned, but he is exempt from observing the second Pesach. If he said to them and said to him, they said to them and they said to him, all of them eat first, but it is not known which of them was slaughtered first, both are burned. If he said nothing to them and he said nothing to him, they are not responsible for each other. If the Pesach offerings of two groups were confused, they take one for themselves and take one for others for themselves. Then a member of one group comes to the other group, and a member of the other group comes to this group, and they declare the following: if this Pesach was ours, then you will withdraw from your own Pesach. And if you were registered on ours, then this Pesach is yours, then we withdraw from ours, and we are registered with you. Similarly, if there were five groups, each comprising 5 or 10 members, then they take themselves one person from each group and declare the same. Two individuals whose Pesach offering were confused, and this one takes from Pesach for himself, and that one takes one takes from himself. One registers some stranger with himself, and that one registers some stranger with himself. This one comes to that Pesach, and that one comes to this Pesach, and they say to this, if this Pesach is mine, then you are withdrawn from yours, and you are registered upon mine. And if that Pesach is yours, I am withdrawn from mine, and I'm registered upon yours. Okay.
Okay.
We
Now we
are
can do Shvius.
Jeez. Yes. Aleph. Until when it is permitted to plow in an orchard on the eve of Shavuot, when Beit Shammai says as long as it benefits the fruit, but Beit Shammai says until it's tzeret, and that the view of these approximates the view of like those. What constitutes an orchard? Whenever there are three trees to a bait saw, if they can yield a cake of pressed figs of 60 talli mana, the entire bait saw may be plowed for their sake. If less, then no more than the space occupied by gather and his basket beside him may be plowed. Both non-fruit bearing and fruit bearing trees are regarded as if they were fruit fig trees. If they are capable of yielding a cake of pressed figs of 60 Italian mana, the entire bed shell may be plowed for their sake. If less, then only that which they require may be plowed. Okay. Oh, sorry. Carol,
Yep, Kalim time.
Caleb. Okay. Base hay. Regarding a block that once set in a row of bricks, whether he set it in the wall but did not build on it, or he built it, or he built on it but it did not set it into the wall, it is tame. But if he set it in the wall and built on it, it is tahor. Regarding a mat that one placed over the ceiling beams, whether he attached it to the beams but did not lay plaster over it, or if he laid plaster over it but did not attach it to the beams, it is tame. But if attached it and laid plaster on it, then it is tahor. Regarding a plate that one attached to a bin, a chest, or a cabinet, if it was attached in the way that it receives, it is tame. But if it was attached not in the way it receives, it is tahor. Regarding a sheet that is susceptible to becoming tame with midras tuma and may made it into a curtain, it is impervious to midras tuma but susceptible to becoming tame with corpse tuma. From when does it become tahor? Bet Shammai says from when it is broken. Basil says from when it is tied, and Rekiva says when it is attached. Okay.
One more.
A mat in which one place reed stalks along its length is tower. They come and say only if the stalks are similar to that of a key. If you place the reed stalks around the mat's width and there are not 4 handbreadths between them, one reed and the next, it is tahor. If we split in its width, Rabbi Yehuda rules a tower, and similarly, if one unties the end knots, it is tahor. If we split its length and 3 end knots remained of 6 handbreadths, it is tameh. From when does the mat become susceptible to tuma? When it is trimmed, and this represents the completion of its manufacture.
Right.
Uh, okay, we go. We have Machos and Machos. Olive Chet. Just as with two, is if one of them is found to be a kinsman or a disqualified witness, the testimony is void. So too with three. If one of them is found to be a kinsman or a disqualified witness, the testimony is void. How do we know that this is so? Even for 100, to teach this, it states witnesses. If said with Rosie in regard to what it is said, in regard to capital cases, but in regard to civil cases, the testimony is established through remaining witnesses. Rebbe says both in civil cases and in capital cases, but only if they warn them. But if they did not warn them, what should two brothers do? Do who saw someone commit a murder, to commit a murder. If two saw him from his window and two saw him from that window, and one in the middle warned them, if some of them saw each other, they are one set of witnesses. If not, there are two sets of witnesses. Therefore, if one of them is found to be a Zomerman, he and they are executed, and the second set is exempt. Rabbi Yossi says they are not executed unless his two witnesses warn him. As it is said by the testimony of two witnesses, another explanation by the testimony of two witnesses, that a Sanhedrin should not hear testimony from the mouth of an interpreter. If one was sentenced and fled and then came before that very same court and they do not overturn the sentence, wherever two stand up and declare, we testify concerning so-and-so that he was sentenced in so-and-so's court, and so-and-so and so-and-so were his witnesses, he is executed. And Sanhedrin functions both in the Holy Land and outside the Holy Land. The Sanhedrin that execute once in a cemetery is just called the destroyer. Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah says once in 70 years, Rabbi Tarfon says, Rabbi Kiva said, had we been on a Sanhedrin, the person would never have been executed. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says there too have increased the number of murderers in Israel.
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't enforce the law, there is no law.
Quick question. The